Hello, friends. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. My name is Rick Thomas, and I want to talk about something that is foundational to what we do in our ministry, and that is our Mastermind Program. Over the past several years, I have been thinking, I think about the Mastermind Program all the time. There's probably not a day that goes by where I'm not thinking about training our students and helping them to grow in the skill of discipleship. And I've never been quite satisfied with our program, but God had not unlocked the mystery. He has not decoded the riddle that has made it clear to me as to how we should lay out our mastermind program in such a way that is doable and beneficial to our students, and it communicates the right message. And over the last 6 months, it's as though the Lord has been giving me this kind of clarity. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I have talked to quite a few people about this, and we have finally come to the place to where we are not just rethinking, but we are reworking, and we're relaunching our mastermind program. And I want to walk through what I'm talking about here in this video. And this video here is really for anyone. And if I could, with clarity, just lay out the purpose with two major points, and then I will walk through as carefully as I can how to satisfy these two purpose points. Number one, no training program will make a qualified biblical counselor. And it is imperative that we understand that. It doesn't matter how good the training is, it will not make a qualified biblical counselor, because to be that person, you need a whole lot more than just training. Perhaps you can think of it like a college analogy. You go 4 years to school to learn a trade or to learn a proficiency, and then you step out in that trade and that proficiency, and you're just not as good at it today as you will be 5 or 6 years from now. Well, the counseling world is no different from that. Now, what we have done in the past, we have developed a one-size enormous mastermind program with the idea that when you go through it, you will be a qualified biblical counselor. But I've been doing this training for more than a decade now, and I know that that is not true, and that's part of why I've been rethinking how can we make a program that is doable, the best program that we could produce to get a person on the right track. And on the right track is a key phrase. We're not trying to be the be-all, end-all to a training regimen that a person can receive and they can become the very thing that they desire to become, because, again, that's just not possible. And so the purpose of this video, point number one, is no training program will make a qualified biblical counselor. It's a start, but it will not get you to that goal. You need more. Number two, how can we make the best possible program to get a person on the right track? And the way that I want to walk through that in this video is I have an outline here, and I'm going to walk through these steps, and hopefully by the time that we get to the end and we re-look at the purpose statement of the webinar here, it will make sense to you. Point number one, I'm going to talk about the certification problem. Point number two, I'm going to share with you an illustration from culture that, I think it will be such a good analogy that you'll be able to see clearly what I am trying to communicate. Point number three, I'm going to talk about us reworking our program. Number four, I will talk about the process of completing our program, which will be essential for anyone that is kicking the tires, looking to take this training. You would want to pay close attention to the rework and the completing of our program. And then I want to get into some of the reasons why we are changing it. And then finally, we'll talk about Mastermind 2.0. As you probably have already intuited, that if you're going to become formalized biblical counselor, you'll need more than just our Mastermind training program, which you could call Mastermind 1.0 at this point. So this is the outline. Let's look at the certification problem, point number one. Biblical counseling training is part of the process, not the whole. And it's absolutely imperative that we get this idea fixed in our minds. Training is a starting point, it is a path, it can be a foundation. And for those of you who may be watching this video and you are looking for a counselor, and you ask the question, have you had biblical counseling training, or are you a certified biblical counselor? It is important. It is essential that you understand that if they say, yes, I have biblical counseling training, I am a certified biblical counselor, it is imperative that you ask more questions, because you cannot make this connotation that certification equals qualification, because it's not true. What biblical counseling training does, and if you go back to my college illustration, is that it lays a foundation and it sets a trajectory to what you could be in the future, but not what you are now, just because you've had this training, no matter how exceptional it is. It takes about 5+ years to mature as a good counselor. Now, I have to caveat that. It depends on how many reps you have, how many repetitions you have. As I was growing in the skill of biblical counseling, I was leading a counseling ministry at a local church, and so I was counseling 5 days a week, many hours every day, and then sometimes on the weekend as well. And so I had thousands of hours under my belt within a 5-year period of time. And so I had lots of repetition. Of course, if you are only counseling once in a blue moon, well, then that 5+ years is going to extend even farther out than what maybe you want, or maybe what you had hoped. Malcolm Gladwell talks about in one of his books, he uses this arbitrary number of 10,000 hours as a number to communicate the time that it takes to grow proficient in any craft. And so if you think about, like, say, playing a piano, for example, you can learn the keys or the basic keys, and you can play Old MacDonald Had a Farm, but you will not be playing at your local opera house, or you're not going to be playing on a stage somewhere, because you just don't have the proficiency, because you don't have the hours in it. And so you have the training, but you're not proficient at it. And this is why it's so important that we understand this, because too often we do make that bad connotation that just because I learned how to play Old MacDonald Had a Farm, that I am proficient as a pianist, and it's just not true. And so our program in the past has assumed too much. And so when I built the program, more than in 2010, when I built the program, I built a massive training experience. And unfortunately, I was thinking that it was like, this is the be-all, end-all. And so someone would come into our training, and by the end of it, because it's college-level training, and by the time they get to the end of it, they will be a biblical counselor, a qualified biblical counselor. But I knew also that that really wasn't true, because it takes so much more. But what I wanted to give them was the fullest possible training experience. And unfortunately, what has happened is our attrition rate is pretty high, because people get into our program and it's like, this is too massive. I want to learn how to do biblical counseling, but there's so much to this that I just don't have the time, don't have the perseverance, and then whatever other issues they may have, they procrastinate, and they just don't benefit completely for the program, because it's too big. And so what I have been thinking about is how to make a doable program with a certification, but not a false message. And so there are 3 parts there. In order to have a doable program, we need to change it and make it easier to get through, which I'll explain in a moment. But when I say easier, I don't mean that it's downgraded in quality at all. It means that we're understanding the issue at hand, that if becoming a proficient biblical counselor is 10 yards, to use another analogy, then the program, part of the training is just 3 yards or 5 yards. And so how can we build a quality program that gets them to the 3 yard or the 5 yard mark, knowing that it's not going to be all that they need to be in order to be proficient? And so how can we make it doable without losing the quality? Give them a certification, which is something historically I have been against, because the connotation is certification equals qualification, and I'm not buying that. I can't buy into that. Therefore, we have never given certifications, but we are going to start doing that, and I'll explain that throughout this video. So what can we make doable just to get them on the track and moving down the right path without reducing quality? Give them a certification that connotes where they are at this moment, though it might not be where they will be in the future. Therefore, we're not communicating a false message. And so this is the certification problem, and why we have been against it, why I personally have been against it our entire training experience. But we do have a way to, I think, communicate that more effectively. Point number 2, let me give you an illustration from our culture. But first, get a haircut. And what I mean by that is, now I'm not throwing shade on Great Clips, the haircut agency, but it is true, whether it's Great Clips or your own, hanging out your own shingle, that you can go and get the training that you need to cut hair, do hair, whatever you call that. You can go and get that training, and you can hang out a shingle and be a beautician or a hairstylist, or you can work at Great Clips. And I don't mean to be disparaging toward Great Clips at all, but what I'm talking about here from an illustration point of view is that you get the training and you can get a chair at Great Clips, whether you're good at cutting hair or not. And that is a huge problem. And by the way, biblical counseling training is like that as well. You go get the training, and then you can start telling everybody you're a certified biblical counselor, and you can hang a shingle out. You can start a blog. You can work within a counseling ministry, and you can promote yourself unwittingly. I'm not saying there's ill motive to it. There could be ignorant motive to it, that you're just not a good hair cutter. You're not a good hairstylist, even though you have had the training. And so that's one analogy from culture, but actually I want to use another one, and that is Major League Baseball. You see, Major League Baseball is not like what I have been describing. They have tiers, they have levels, they have gradations, and you have to prove yourself before you can be officially certified in the most formalized sense. In Major League Baseball, historically, they have other leagues than these, and I won't get into the minutiae of Major League Baseball, but I'll just use this simple, straightforward analogy. They have single A, double A, and triple A. And so the analogy to me is that I am like a major league scout, and I go to single A, which is our Mastermind Program, and I start scouting with my speed gun and see what possible potential that this pitcher has as far as a fastball is concerned. How fast can he throw it potentially in the future? How accurate can he be potentially in the future? And Major League Baseball does this. And unfortunately, in the biblical counseling world, all you need is a cap, a bat, a glove, and a jersey, and you can play in the bigs. You can play in Major League Baseball. I have a cap, I have a bat, I have a glove. I've played Little League. I may have played Babe Ruth League or high school baseball, maybe been on the church softball team. I got a jersey, and if you can do that, you're automatically in the major leagues. I'm not saying that people do this with sinful motive, but that's the connotation, and Major League Baseball would never do that. There is a better vetting system to see where you should be and what we're going to call you, but there's no way we're going to call everybody a Major League Baseball player just because they have a cap, bat, glove, and jersey. And there's no way we can call everybody a certified biblical counselor just because they've gone through some training. And so our program and our philosophy is more like Major League Baseball than it is with the modern biblical counseling movement, because this process that I've described to you in the biblical counseling movement, it's not only a mistake, but it is dangerous. And there is absolutely no question about that. And any person who's paying any attention and that is interacting with counselees or former counselees, if they've done that at all with any seriousness and comprehensiveness, then they know that this is a mistake and it is a danger, because there are too many people with certifications and they're playing in the big leagues and they shouldn't. And this process that I'm describing to you is why we have not certified our graduates in the past. I have always been against it. There's people that won't take our program because they can't get a certification. They want that certification, but we can't give one historically because I don't want the connotation for somebody that leaves our training and goes out and says, I am a certified biblical counselor. They hang out a shingle and start counseling, but they aren't good at it. Major League Baseball would never do that, and neither would we. And so what I've been thinking about over the longest time now, I'm talking about several years. This is not an impulsive thing that we're doing here, but I've been thinking about reworking our program. And part of reworking our program is that we're going to start operating our Mastermind program like Major League Baseball and their farm system, single A, double A, and triple A. And so using that analogy, I want to walk through what that means. And so part of what that means is we're going to start vetting prospective students before they start. Historically, what happened when you come to our program is that you purchase the program and you're in it. And we do have a lot of material that people can watch, read, and listen to as I very carefully explain what our Mastermind program is. I've had several students tell me that I've never been part of a program that works so hard to try to talk people out of doing it. And the primary reason for that, several. I want to be clear. It's an integrity issue for me. I want to be very clear. It's not about getting people's money. It's about helping people, but I want them to walk in with their eyes wide open. And so we've been over-communicative in my view about what it takes to get into our program, but still we have people come in, and then once they get in, they realize this is much bigger than I even thought, and then they end up not doing it or end up falling out. And so what we want to do is we want to start vetting students. So before you can buy the program, we want you to get in and start the program so you can start in single A. You're not going to start with the big package in the beginning. And the way that we're going to do that, our course is set up in 48 blocks. And within each block, you could think of a block like a bucket, and within that bucket are different disciplines like case studies and reading assignments and writing assignments and theological assignments. There's different things inside of each block, but there's 48 of them. And so you start with block 1, that's the beginning of the Mastermind program, and then you finish at block 48. And theoretically, if you did a block I guess that would be every 2 weeks or so, you could finish the program in 2 years, in 24 months. And that would be, that'd be like 2 blocks a month if I've done my math correctly. And so we have these blocks, but rather than you purchasing the entire program, what you would do is that you could purchase and complete the first 3 blocks of the course one at a time. And through that process, you haven't made a major financial commitment, but it allow you to give it a test drive, and it would allow you to be part of the Mastermind course, and it would count as credit because it would be the first 3 blocks. But it would not be a commitment that you would do anything. It would not be a commitment from us. It would not be a commitment from you. It would just be you being able to sample the course to see because once you do the 3 blocks, once you do the first block, you'll have an idea what the other 47 are like. And you'll also have an idea as whether this is something that you want to do or not. And so if you finish the first block and then decide you want to take the second one, you can do that as well. And you would purchase the second block. And then you would purchase the third block if you wanted to go there. And then you would have a very good idea. This is better than what we had in the past, because in the past, I've had all these hurdles set up that explain the program, but still you weren't taking the program. And no matter how clear we try to be in explaining what you are about to do, you're not doing it. And so you buy the whole thing, and then you have buyer's remorse because it's like, I can't do this, it's too much, or whatever. Well, now you can buy a little bit of it, block 1, then block 2, then block 3. And then upon completion, what we do and what you do is we evaluate each other. You evaluate us. Is this something that I believe that I want to do? I like this training. I like the multi-perspectival emphasis of it, because it's not just me doing work, but it's people that are supervising me and walking me through. It's me interacting with the student body. It's me getting repetition because I'm actually doing real counseling in real time. And so there's many different angles to it. And so you get to experience all of that by doing the first 3 blocks. And so you can make the decision and evaluate, are you in faith for this? And then, of course, it allows us to evaluate you, because there are some people who come, maybe they come for the wrong reasons, but whatever that may be, it's like, no, this is really not going to be a good fit for you. Maybe we can offer you some other type training that you can do. And so it's following the Major League Baseball system. We're not going to move you up to AA or AAA because it just appears based on certain things that you would not be able to persevere through this program, or whatever that may be that would hinder you from taking the program. And so we both get to make an honest assessment without making a full commitment. Now, what does it take, like if a person does come in and they complete our program? Well, each student who completes the course, they're going to receive a certificate. And so we are doing certification. And of course, for those of you who have been following our ministry for any amount of time, or for those of you who have looked into our Mastermind program, you say, man, I want that certification, but they don't do it, therefore I'm not going to take the Mastermind training. You may ask, well, why are you doing it now? Well, I want to walk through what completing our program is. We are going to give certification to people who complete. But we have divided certification up into 4 different levels. Certification, so there's 4 possible certifications that you can receive. And so everybody that finishes the course will receive certification 4, which means a discipler. It is possible that you could receive certification 3, which is a disciple maker. And there's a distinction here. There is a difference. And a little bit later in this video, I'll actually expand on all of these certification labels so that you get a very clear picture of what the differences are. But I won't do that now, but we will get there in just a moment. Certification 2 is an informal biblical counselor. And so the first 2 are disciple maker. And then now we're moving up to a more technical level to where you're getting into the nooks and crannies of doing partially complex counseling cases. And then certification 1 would be a formal counselor, a formal biblical counselor, a formalized biblical counselor. And so a person who finishes our course will receive a certificate, but the certificates would be laid out like this. All right, so let me get a little more into it. Certification 4, a discipler. Here are some synonyms that will help you understand who that person is. A mentor, a friend, a soul care provider, a companion, and an advisor. A truly competent discipler, be one of the best mentors, best friends, soul care providers, companions, advisors that you could possibly have. Certification 3 is a notch higher than that. It's a disciple maker. This is a replicator. There's a difference between coming alongside someone and just giving them advice and helping them through life and being a soul care provider, but you're not replicating them into anything as far as a leader is concerned. You're just helping them in their personal sanctification, which is an outstanding thing to do. But if you have a higher level of gifting, you can actually go beyond mentor, friend, soul care provider, companion, advisor, and now you are a leader, a guide, ability to replicate, a small group leader, a teacher. You see, a disciple maker makes disciples. They are replicating themselves. And so there's a slight difference in our explanation of these two terms. One is just helping them along in life by giving them very sound, competent advice. The second one is having the ability to identify a person and to be able to mature and to grow them and even replicate them into the very level that you are, a small group leader, a teacher. And so it is a higher level of gifting. And then certification 2 is an informal counselor. It is everything that has been stated: mentor, friend, soul care provider, companion, advisor, leader, guide, ability to replicate, small group leader, teacher. And then competent counselor, some counseling situations, but not the kitchen sink. Not every counseling situation. But a person who has clearly defined gifts at this level, that they're ready to go to AAA, and they have that kind of ability. They can not just come alongside somebody, they can not just replicate an individual, but they can actually get into some counseling situations. And then we have certification number 1. It's everything that's been stated, plus personal, relational, familial, situational counselor, complex cases. This is a person who has the skill set to do sexual abuse counseling, other forms of abuse, walking through the complexities of divorce and dealing with complex marriage issues, family parenting dynamics, counseling teenagers, etc. This is a formalized biblical counselor that they can actually walk people through complex cases. And so when people ask, well, you've changed and you're giving away certifications now, excuse me, well, we haven't changed in the important sense, but what we've done is we're making a distinction so that a person goes through our training that they have a clear certification level, and it means a specific thing, and it doesn't mean specific things. And so what we're saying is that everybody that goes through training is not equal. They do not end at an equal place. Everybody that has a bat, ball, glove, jersey, and a hat, well, they're not playing in the major leagues, and we're making that distinction. So completing our program, all students will receive certification 4. You will get that just for going through our program. That's a very basic level, but I don't want you to think of it as, well, it's just a regular person. No, it is a person who has been well trained, and they have been doing active real life counseling through their program, and they've had very much hands-on training. The way that we do our training is customized training. And so each individual is like standing in their own silo, and they're different from the person that's beside them. And we help them individually and uniquely according to who they are before God and the gifting that He has given them. And so certification 4 is tremendous training, and they are able to be a fantastic mentor and soul care provider. A few of these people may receive certification 3, a disciple maker. These are people who have a distinct leadership gift. A certification 4 would be a person that would meet you at the coffee shop every week and go through a book or talk about issues and really just help you along. One of the best friends that you would ever have as far as a mentor is concerned. Certification 3 is a person that would do that, but yet they're able to identify and isolate individuals and be able to grow them along, not just in their sanctification, but grow them in the area of disciple making. And then certifications 2 and 1, no one going through our program would receive this because it's not possible. It's a false message. It would be saying that an actual biblical counseling training program could propel a person to informal counselor or formal counselor without having the practicum, without having the time and grade, without having the affirmations that you need, that you can actually do that. This just says you receive training, but it doesn't say that you're actually an accomplished counselor, informal or formal, because you haven't done it yet. Not in real time, where there's been evaluation from individuals, whether it's the counselee or whether it's those who give oversight. So it would be unfair to give those distinctions, those certifications, because we would not know that without further assessment. And so you would receive certification 4 or certification 3. The things that we're looking at in the area of gifting, the way that we label them within our ministry, I like using the 4 C's because it just helps to remember. It's a good way to remembering, but we're talking about biblical gifting here, and the sequence that we are looking at starts with character, capacity, competence, and courage. But in order to get certification 2 and 1, we have to assess these 4 areas. And again, as I was saying, it does have to be like, say, now you've gone through the training and you are counseling people in a limited way at your local church, and your leadership is involved and they're assessing you. And of course, your counselees are giving feedback to you and feedback to your leadership team. Or if you're within a parachurch organization, you're counseling, and it's a similar process that counselees are giving you feedback and then giving the folks who are overseeing the organization feedback. And then those who are overseeing, they're also seeing you in real time as well. And then through that process, you receive the accumulative hours to hone your proficiency. When I started doing, biblical counseling, it did take 5 to 7 years to be able to grow in proficiency, and that has virtually everything to do with repetition. You need the education aspect to it, which is what our Mastermind program does. But we can't give you the total proficiency because we can't give you counselees that we can provide oversight and care for you and care for them. And it takes accumulative hours to be able to do that. And then what we want to do is to assess the student's internal call. The internal call is what the student believes that he or she can do, and we want to get their perspective, and hopefully they would by this time have a sober assessment on their gifting and what they can and can't do. They can identify where their ceiling is, whether it's high, low, or in the middle. They can tell you how fast their fastball is, that maybe they have a 95-mile-an-hour fastball or not, and what do they believe God wants them to do. And so they give that assessment, but we also want to have an assessment of their external call. And this is where I was talking about pastors and counselees, that they have spoken into that externally, those outside of you, because we know that we can be very subjective and we not see ourselves clearly, and we can say that, I have a call. I feel God has called me internally. Well, do other people agree with that? And again, our Mastermind program and no training program can accomplish all of this, and that's why we would not give the designation of an informal counselor or formal counselor without more eyes on it and more time and grade actually doing the work of counseling. And so you need that added time, those repetitions and oversight to be able to move to another level in the certification process. And so what we're going to do, rather than making our Mastermind program the end-all, be-all, what we want to do is make it doable without reducing the quality of the program. And so not only are we adding certification, levels of certification to this, but we also want to make it not so difficult to get through it, understanding what our role is in the life of a person who wants to be a counselor. And so we're only a component part of the overall process of what they need to be proficient at this work of counseling. So how can we make a program doable but not lose the quality? Now, one of the things that we are doing is that we are going to make the book reading in our Mastermind program, we're going to make it optional. What we've had in the past is that a student has to read 20-something books and respond to those to go through the program. And one of the things that we realized is that some people who come to our program may not read a book a year or 2 books a year, and we're asking them to read 10 to 12 books a year, a book a month, and that's just more than they can do. But that's the assignment that you would give someone who is heading toward being a formalized biblical counselor. But we want to not just help those people, but we want to help those who just want to be a discipler. And a discipler doesn't need that intensity to be at that level. They just want to play a single A ball. And so we want a program that will be a huge benefit for them. But for the person who potentially may play in the major leagues, we want to give them that same foundation. But of course, afterward, they would be expected to do more. And so we've moved the book reading part of our program to Mastermind 2.0 so that those who want to excel and to get to a higher level of certification, they could do that then. And so we will have the book assignments. Now, for those of you who are in the Mastermind program, or those of you who have been, you know what I'm saying here. You will have the book assignment. We will provide the data that you need without you reading the book. And so we would provide the quotes and the excerpts from the books, and then you would respond to the book assignments and to those excerpts the way that you always have, but you won't be reading a massive book. And so you will be able to work through and strain about as much as you always have as you're wrestling through author's intent and personal application in the book assignment part, but you just won't be hunkered down in this book. It will be optional. Now, by the way, when I say optional, for those who do the Mastermind Program 1.0, you can read the book during the Mastermind Program. But again, we're making it optional, not mandatory any longer. And we're still going to maintain our emphasis of theology, knowledge, and application. And that's the three-legged stool that we will continue to focus on. We make sure that our students have grounded, sound theology. And that is the foundation to all discipleship and all counseling. Because what we're doing, we are applying theology. And so you have to have this theological foundation. And then on top of the theological foundation, you have to have this wealth of knowledge base about sanctification. And then from this theological base and this theoretical sanctification base, then you start making personal, practical application, connecting theology to real world, real people's lives. That is not going to change. We're going to continue to maintain that. We will not lessen in any way our focus on most Christians' weakness, by the way, which is application. The overwhelming majority of people, maybe virtually everybody that comes to our program, they love the Bible, they love God, they've read a lot of books on discipleship, sanctification, marriage, parenting, topical issues, whatever there may be. They have a knowledge base, a theological base. But where they struggle most of all is application. And we're going to continue to focus on theology, knowledge, and application. And we are not going to downgrade the application part at all. And then if a person goes through and it's like, this was fantastic. I have this robust training and I just really understand how to make application from a sound theological foundation, and I just want to be this discipler, and I'm good now, and I'll just continue to read my Bible, and I'll continue to help people and just be a wonderful friend wherever God would permit me to be so. But then there will be others that really want to go farther up to AA, AAA, maybe the major leagues. And so we want to give them a 2.0 option after they finish the Mastermind program. And again, it's those who want to mature their skills. Now, they may continue with us. They understand this idea that I've been communicating throughout this video, that no training will give them what they need to be what they want to become. You can't play Little League and and have the basic skills and think that you can play in the majors. It's going to take years if you ever get to that place. It may be possible, and they want to see if they can, so they want additional training. And so with a 1.0 foundation, they now can complete those book assignments, which will be a huge knowledge base that they can build. They can also continue their supervised counseling on our forums. One of the requirements in our Mastermind program is that our students are working on our forums, our community forum where people come and ask questions about all sorts of things. And then we have a private forum for the people who financially support us, that they support us monthly or annually. They buy a membership to our site. Well, they have access to a private forum, which is a smaller community. So what we have are two forums, a free forum that anybody in the world can access, and then we have a private forum for our financial supporting community. Well, they come to these forums and they ask questions. And part of the requirement of Mastermind 1.0, the Mastermind 1.0 program, is that they have to answer questions on the forum that are supervised. I see everything that comes through. I watch what they are doing. And then we have a private forum just for our student body, our Mastermind students, that's also on our website, but nobody can access it except for our Mastermind students. And so I talk to them in this Mastermind forum about what they're doing out front, and they will ask me, questions like, how should I approach this? Would you help me with this? Would you back me up on this? And so they're receiving training all along. And so the person that comes to us, they receive quality care that's well managed and well supervised. They have our students that are getting their reps in and growing in their skill set. I am talking behind the scenes with them so that we're making sure that we're taking care of both groups, the students and those who come to us. And so I'm watching both. And then I meet with the students once a month, and we talk privately on a Zoom call we meet for an hour, and every student has the opportunity to do that. And so we're meeting there, and so they're receiving all of that training. Now, if they want to continue in that, they would continue working on the forums, getting the repetitions in, because that's one of the most important things that you can possibly do as a disciple maker. Repetition. You've got to be doing it. And if you think about a person playing golf or baseball or a pianist, cello, people who do that well, a gymnast, people who do that well are doing that hours a day because they understand the fundamentals, but they also understand that if they're going to grow at it, they got to be doing it every day. And so we give them a context where a well-supervised context to where they can continue that. And so if a person wants to continue with us, they can go into Mastermind 2.0 and they can continue to build their knowledge base by reading the books. They can continue to work on supervised counseling. They can also work with their leadership in a church environment where they are receiving counselees or people according to their gifting. And so it's well supervised, where the pastoral staff would give one of our students somebody that's needing help that would be comparable to the student's skill set. So it's still under that supervision where they can continue to grow. The purpose of this webinar that I've been communicating to you is that no training program will make a qualified biblical counselor. And it is important that we understand that. And as I've said earlier, that if you are a counselee and you're looking for help, you need to know more than this person is a certified biblical counselor, because it could be a setup for you to get hurt because they don't have the ability to help you at the level that you need help. And so when you say you're a certified biblical counselor, if they've gone through our training, well, there's a level of certification, and that will communicate what they can actually do and what they can't do. You also have us as a vetting organization that you can reach out to us and explain your situation and Would this person be good? Is this a good fit? Because our concern is that we just don't want to hurt people. And I don't want to be part of an organization that is just giving out certification because they've gone through training and these people are starting blogs or hanging out shingles, or they're part of a counseling organization, but they just aren't good at it. There's too many stories of people who have gotten hurt because the counselor is a certified biblical counselor. And that's just not, from an integrity perspective, from a conscience perspective, that's not something that we, by the grace of God, that we will ever do. And so we want to be very clear what people's skill set is, and we want to work with them, with the student, to help them to identify where they are so that they can be placed perfectly where they should be on the field of play. And then if they do have potential to go up the ranks, so to speak, to AA, AAA, we want to help them to get there. We want to help them to be able to find whatever their designated spot should be. And so how can we make the best program to get a person on the right track? And I think with these adjustments that we have made to the Mastermind program, you can come in as a prospective student rather than a student, and you can test us, you can test yourself, you can test the thoroughness of the program, and you can make an intelligent decision before you go completely in. And then if you go in, you will receive outstanding training from what you do and how you interact. You will receive training from the student body, who will be iron sharpening iron with each other. You'll receive training from the supervision team, which is me and others, as we hands-on work with you. And it'll be something that's doable but hasn't been reduced in quality at all. And so we have been rethinking and reworking, and we are relaunching our Mastermind program. And it really is for anyone. And so I thank you for watching. And if you have any questions whatsoever, I want you to ask, and let us do what we can to answer your questions. You can jump on our forums. We have an informational LMS, a learning management system, where you can go through and you can read more about the program. There's a podcast attached to this video. And so you can watch this webinar, you can listen to that podcast, you can go on our informational LMS and learn about the components of the program. There's a half a dozen other podcasts that you can listen to as well. And so you can make an intelligent decision as if this is something for you, and you can even take it for a test drive to where you do 1 to 3 blocks to see if this is something that you want to do. If it is, or if you have more questions, please ask and let us know what they are, and we'll try to answer them and serve you the most effective way that we can. Thank you so much for watching. We're rethinking, reworking, relaunching our Mastermind program. I am Rick Thomas. God bless.